Fox Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
Just about set for kickoff here at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford. Let's check in downstairs with Pam Oliver.
Well, Tom, the Giants have discussed it all week. Do not overlook Seattle. It's a 1-3 team that Tom Coughlin calls resilient, even a dangerous team. I spoke with Akeem Nicks before the game. He says that they are a team with a chip on their shoulders, and they play just like that. He said also, look for them to try to come back in the second half. If such is the case, they've been known to do that. Just a couple of things to look for in this ball game. Back to you.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Seattle has won the toss, selected to receive. Pete Carroll in his second year as the Seahawks head coach, despite a 7-9 record last year. That was good enough to win the NFC West. And of course, Tom Coughlin, 65 years old, a native of Waterloo, New York. Now in his 8th year as head coach of the Giants, 4 times has taken them to the postseason, including the Super Bowl title in 2007. Former New York Jet Leon Washington waiting on the kickoff from Lawrence Tynes, who spins it away. A line drive kick that will bounce through the end zone out to the 20 for the Seahawks on offense. And Tarvaris Jackson, former Minnesota Viking, had never thrown for over 300 yards in a game until last week.
Yeah, career game for him, Tom, and one of the big reasons for that was they got down so big early in that ball game. In fact, that's been one of the problems for this Seattle offense through the first 4 weeks of the season, is they have struggled to score points in the first half of these games. Last week they went to the no huddle. I would expect to see that early in this one.
Quick slant, Ben Obamanu makes a reception. That'll be a gain of 9 yards, and they are in hurry-up mode.
You kind of got the feeling they would do that. Tarvaris Jackson said after last week's comeback that they fell short of winning, that he's much more confident and comfortable in the no huddle because it takes away a lot of the element of having to think at the line of scrimmage.
Marshawn Lynch, big yardage after the reception. He's up to the 46-yard line. They'll move the chains. And Lynch has not gotten up after being tackled just across the 45-yard line by Jason Pierre-Paul. Lynch came over last season, you may remember, in a trade from Buffalo.
Marshawn Lynch, through the early part of this season, has really taken a pounding as a runner in the running game, and then for him to have a nice play there on the second play of the game and get injured on a pass play is a little bit ironic.
Just 141 rushing yards for Lynch. Neither one of these teams have run the football the way they want to run the football through the first 4 games of this season. Justin Forsett replaces Lynch in the backfield. Again, Obamanu on the quick hit, and that's another first down into Giants territory to the 43.
And one of the things about this no huddle, Tom, is that Darrell Bevel, the offensive coordinator, can still communicate with Tarvaris Jackson, and they don't want to get into a situation where all they're doing is throwing the ball, but yet they've been effective here on the first 3 plays.
Forsett, first run call for the Seahawks. He's inside the 40. Forsett, a nice guy to have backing up Lynch. When he's gotten the chance to play the last couple of years, he has been an extremely productive back.
No, he's a versatile guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he's very versatile in terms of him being able to get out on some of the routes. He does a nice job within some of their run game. But you've got to be careful how you use him.
He made a good block there, which gave Tarvaris Jackson time to find Sidney Rice. And this hurry-up mode has worked very effectively.
Well, it's worked effectively, and Tarvaris Jackson's gotten good time to throw the ball. You see, that's where Sidney Rice is really good. He's not going to typically outrun a lot of people, but the intermediate stuff, allowing him to use his body, he comes back and makes a play on the ball.
Again, great protection. And into double coverage. He had an eye on Anthony McCoy, the backup tight end, and broken up in the secondary by Deion Grant, the former Seahawk.
Pretty tight fit right there. You've got you've got McCoy working the seam against that two-deep safety look. You've got to shape him a little bit more towards the middle, so the safety, in this case Deion Grant, isn't a factor. But this is a nice start right here by the Seattle offense.
Hey, 2-6. First incompletion for Jackson through his first 5 passes. An eye on Zach Miller, and a flag comes in late after the hit was made by Kenny Phillips on Zach Miller.
It was very similar to what happened on the last play. And they're going to get called for hit on a defenseless receiver. You see Zach Miller come in. The shot is to the head. And that you can't do. Kenny Phillips comes in. And anything around that's not just leading with the helmet, it's any forearm, shoulder, anything to the head or neck area of a defenseless receiver is a penalty.
Oftentimes you can tell by the players on the field their body language when a player is hurt. All of the Giants, all of the Seahawks immediately surrounding Zach Miller down near the goal line.
Sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com.
Zach Miller able to get up and walk over to the sideline. See the Seahawks only 13 first half points this year. They have not scored in the opening quarter through the first 4 games. Four-man. Marshawn Lynch back into the backfield. And just throwing it into the ground is Jackson.
Yeah. They're going to get Tarvaris Jackson for intentional grounding is what it looked like to me. I didn't see a receiver in the area. He was in the pocket.
There was no foul for intentional grounding. Number 24 was in the vicinity. Second down.
You know, right from the start of this play, it looked like there was a miscommunication. You've got Marshawn Lynch going one way and then Tarvaris Jackson. Marshawn Lynch is not in the route. He's blocking. He's trying to block Osi Umenyiora was the idea. He was going to help out on that left side. He goes to the ground. I think that was a bad pickup there by the official. That should have been intentional grounding.
Should be noted the Giants are playing without Justin Tuck. Their 2-time Pro Bowl defensive end still being bothered with a very sore neck.
Hey, three down! Squeeze it!
Giants send the blitz. They get it away to Obamanu, and he will ride into the end zone, a touchdown. So for the first time in 5 games this year, Seattle has scored a touchdown in the opening quarter.
Good blocking on the perimeter there by Golden Tate, number 81. You're going to see him right here. He comes out. He's able to make a block low, and he gets Entrell roll then on the ground, which allowed Obamanu then their man coverage elsewhere. Corey Webster running with his man, and once you get the one guy then who's responsible in coverage for Obamanu, then it's an easy touchdown.
Great start for Obamanu. He is playing in place of Mike Williams, who suffered a concussion in the loss last week against Atlanta. Pete Carroll enjoying that opening possession of the game. Eight plays, 80 yards. Pinpoint accuracy for Tarvaris Jackson, who's protected well. I know you like this very young Seattle offensive line.
I do. I think if you look at the sacks, it's a little misleading when you're playing from the deficit that they have for much of the year. It's a lot of pressure on them, but they did a heck of a job there in that first possession of giving Tarvaris Jackson a lot of time to throw the ball.
Meanwhile, for Eli Manning, had the 2 touchdown passes within a minute of one another to rally the Giants for a win out in the desert last week. They will play today without Brandon Jacobs as they try to find some semblance of a run game.
Quite a surprise that they haven't run the ball better this year, coming off their worst rushing game, and that come from behind victory last week out in the desert against the Cardinals.
Manning to throw on first down, and just slides ahead for a pickup of 2 yards. Seattle today will play without Marcus Trufant. He's put down today due to back spasms.
They got the rookie KJ Wright playing at linebacker. I think this right here, the secondary, particularly the safeties. You know, you mentioned they're without Marcus Trufant, a veteran corner, obviously the most experienced player on the back end. But these 2 safeties, Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, they are active guys on that back end.
Bradshaw, his first carry of the afternoon, and good enough for a first down. Good run by Bradshaw, who carried for over 1,200 yards last season. There is a flag down over near the Giants sideline. Ed Hockley, our referee today.
There was no foul for holding on the play. The play results in a first down.
Well, we talked to Tom Coughlin. He's not happy about this lack of a running game. You got right here Stacey Andrews. He's the extra lineman. He comes in right there at the tight end position. They overload then that right side with some big guys to try to run the football. He knows this Seattle defense has been very good in stopping the run. Not many teams have had much success moving the ball on the ground. That was a nice first rushing play for the Vikings, or excuse me, for the Giants.
13-yard gain for Bradshaw. They'll give it to him again. He's up to the 40-yard line. Gain of 5. Let's check in back in Los Angeles with Kurt Menefee.
Carolina's first play of the game against the Saints, not what they wanted. Cam Newton gets picked off by Patrick Robinson. 2 plays after that, Drew Brees hooked up to Jed Collins for a score, and the Saints have a 7-0 lead midway through the first quarter. Tom and Troy.
Kurt, thank you very much.
That's it. 180. Wait, hold on.
2nd and 5. Manning hit as he throws and lofted beautifully into the arms of Mario Manningham. That's to the Seattle 43-yard line. Big hit by Cam Chancellor as Manning was able to get it away.
Well, Mott Bradshaw had to make a decision as to who he was going to take. He was going to take the outside linebacker, or he was going to take the safety. Cam Chancellor actually ended up being the most dangerous blitzer. Bradshaw probably should have picked him up first, but Eli Manning hanging in the pocket and really making a nice throw under duress there to Mario Manningham. And they need this guy, Mario Manningham, to start to show himself a little more than he has through the first 4 games.
Manning fires wide open as Jake Ballard to the 15-yard line.
Well, good protection afforded Eli Manning. Jake Ballard, they're in zone coverage, and he's just able to sneak in behind that linebacker level, and nobody picks him up. Jake Ballard, who is really on the team because of his blocking ability. They felt that they wouldn't lose much when they lost Kevin Boss in terms of blocking. Didn't think he'd be able to fill the void as a receiver, but yet he has. And Tom Coughlin said, we're real pleased with his route running. Now we just need him to be a better blocker.
Inside handoff, they put it in the hands of Victor Cruz. Young man who grew up just down the road in nearby Patterson, New Jersey. Started Patterson Catholic High School, went on to play 1AA at UMass. He's been a great story. He had the breakout game, of course, against Philadelphia when he had 2 touchdowns.
Well, they came into the season wondering how they were going to replace Steve Smith, and more specifically how they were going to replace him, you know, as a slot receiver, because that's where he's at his best, beating the man inside coverages. They've struggled with that. I think they found their guy. Victor Cruz the last 2 weeks has been exceptional.
180. Wait, hold on.
That's Ballard. Second straight game with a touchdown for Jake Ballard. You brought it up, Troy. Tom Coughlin got very excited talking about the play of Jake Ballard.
We're going to watch him work the middle of the field right here. I mean, the linebackers just don't look him up. They're busy worrying about their drops. They start concerning themselves with the receivers on the outside. And then in the middle, you got David Hawthorne, who doesn't squeeze it. And Jake Ballard's a difficult man to get on the ground once he has the ball.
Point after is good. Ballard, his first career touchdown last week. And the undrafted rookie out of Ohio State gets the Giants on the board. Number 1 cheerleader Brandon Jacobs loving it. Well, what a beautiful weather weekend here in New York and in many parts around the country, of course, with the exception of being Dallas, Texas, where you guys haven't had rain all year long, and you get it for game 1 last night.
And I heard that it was raining pretty good there this morning as well. Hopefully it won't be a factor in today's ball game.
Played through a couple of lengthy rain delays last night. Leon Washington out of the end zone. And a good return up to the 24-yard line. Still one of the most dangerous return men in the game. 7-7. A touchdown, its first possession, likewise for the Giants. So now Tarvaris Jackson back out on the field. An extremely young offensive unit. In fact, the youngest unit, at least based on the week 4 starters in the entire league this year.
They got 7 new starters from a year ago on the offensive side of the ball.
Marshawn Lynch still on his feet, crosses the 30-yard line. 2nd and short upcoming. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
Where have we seen this before? The Vikings take an early lead. Adrian Peterson, 4-yard score. Minnesota just scored again, so they're up 13-0 pending the extra point over Arizona. Looking for their first win of the season, Tom and Troy.
They've let a few of them get away early on this year. That's a first down reception made by Lynch up to the Giants' 38-yard line.
Yeah, I really do like what I'm seeing from Seattle, especially knowing how inept they have been through the early part of this season. That last touchdown on the first possession of this game, only the second touchdown they've scored in the first half of a ball game. And here they are right back at it. You know, this no huddle, Tarvaris Jackson said he liked it. Heck, I like it too.
He likes having all day to throw. Things starting to break down, and he's able to weave his way towards the middle of the field up to the 44-yard line.
Really good coverage on the back end. Sidney Rice is trying to get some separation. He sees that Tarvaris Jackson is in trouble, so he does what he should do and scramble to get open. Tarvaris Jackson is not a scrambler like a lot of people think. I mean, he's obviously a guy who can make some plays with his feet, but when he gets outside the pocket, he is looking to throw the ball.
A little late on that throw and nearly intercepted by Deion Grant. He had an open receiver down there, Doug Baldwin.
That's a couple plays now that Deion Grant has been in position to potentially intercept it. He had the one earlier down near the goal line. There's the pressure. But this is a throw that without the pressure, Tarvaris Jackson probably makes. He lays the ball out on the sideline to where Baldwin can go get it, but instead, late and behind is never a good thing.
First third down for either team in the game. Right tackle James Carpenter, the rookie out of Alabama, started early.
False start, offense, number 75. 5-yard penalty. It's third down.
So 3rd and 5 goes to 3rd and 10. Along the defensive front, we mentioned Justin Tuck unavailable.
Yeah, Justin Tuck, and he's out. He missed week 1, and he's out here today. And then Osi Umenyiora missed the first 3 games. He came back last week. I mean, between those 2 guys and Matthias Kiwanuka over the last few years, they've never had those 3 guys on the field, or at least very often, or not very often.
Umenyiora catches Jackson from behind. He came back for the first time last week. Had 2 sacks and a forced fumble.
He got speed off the edge, and it's just too much for Okun. And the other thing that hurt Seattle on this was Tarvaris Jackson bobbled the snap initially, so he wasn't able to set up in the pocket and then step up in the pocket to help take some of the pressure off that left tackle.
John Ryan on the punt, waiting back at his own 20. There's Aaron Ross. Good punt. My, oh my. And great coverage. Dropped to the 14. That sack by Umenyiora moves him into a 4th place tie for most sacks in franchise history. How about some of the names on that list?
It's not bad, huh?
Not bad.
I got sacked by a few of those guys.
Who got you more, Taylor or Strahan?
I think Strahan did. Lawrence just scared me a little more.
He ran really fast.
518. 530.
Bradshaw wrapped up after a gain of a yard.
It was a pretty impressive drive for the New York Giants. We talked about what Seattle was able to do on their first possession, but for the Giants to come back and answer that was pretty good as well. And you know, Eli Manning, I know a lot has been made of the interceptions from a year ago, but he has done a nice job here in the early going of protecting the football. I really haven't noticed much difference in the way that he's playing, but I think he's just keeping the ball down, particularly over the middle, and he hasn't had an interception now in the last 2 games.
Bradshaw looking for running room and just not much there. That's one thing about this Seattle defense with a healthy Red Bryant, who you may remember went down last year with a knee injury on Halloween in Oakland. They were only giving up about 80 yards rushing per game. From that moment on, the rest of the year, they gave up 130 rushing yards per game.
No, that's where he specializes, and that's why he just walked off the field over to the sidelines here on 3rd down. But a big part of what they want to be able to do in run defense, and you're right, Tom, that's one of the big reasons why teams have struggled running the football against them this year, is because he's healthy and back on the field.
Manning, and the ball is loose. The question is, who's at the bottom of that pile with a football? Was stripped away by Chris Clemens. And it's Seattle football.
Well, you talk about the lack of interceptions. Eli Manning has also been known to let the ball out of his hand here in the pocket. Granted, it gets hit out by Chris Clemens. You got to be real careful when you're in the pocket and secure the football. Last week it happened against Arizona, and now you're giving the ball right back to Seattle with great field position.
Clemens last year, his first season in Seattle, a full-time starter, and had a career-high 11 sacks. Ball's tipped and nearly intercepted the other way. Looked like Boley may have had a chance to intercept that tipped ball.
Sometimes I think those interceptions come so easy that they're hard to catch. You know, sometimes those are the hardest ones. But yeah, Michael Boley, you don't get many opportunities like that.
Well, Zach Miller back in the game after injuring his shoulder. And now Lynch puts it on the ground, and the Giants get it right back. And it looked like Umenyiora for a 2nd straight week.
2nd straight week. He led the league last year with 10 forced fumbles. He's just got a knack. He knows where the ball is when he's coming in on quarterbacks. This time he does it with Marshawn Lynch. He goes right after the ball with his right hand as he's trying to secure the tackle. That's a great job. You talk about last week. Last week he forced a fumble and it kept the Cardinals from coming away with any type of points down in the red zone, and he does the exact same thing here against Seattle and Marshawn Lynch.
Well, what a huge turnover that is. Playing on the road against a team that blew you out of the gym on your home field a year ago and come away empty.
I think Eli ought to give him a little gift this week.
Good coverage right there by Walter Thurman, who's playing in place of the injured Trufant.
Well, it sure is. I don't know when Walter Thurman knew that he was going to get the start, but that's awfully good coverage right there. There is contact at the top of the route, and that's what Tom Coughlin was pointing out. Tom Coughlin doesn't miss much, does he?
He doesn't. I'll tell you, he's an enjoyable guy. I haven't had chances to do many of the Giant games, but you can understand why he's been around as long as he's been around and all the wins that he's piled up.
He likes this team, too. He likes them a lot more after the way they've come back and won the last 2 weeks.
Hawthorne there with a host of others on the carry to Bradshaw. Red Bryant in on the stop as well. Third and 9.
Four down, finish that with the mic. Great.
So go against the Giants. We think there were a lot of bodies moving around.
Neutral zone infraction defense. Number 94.
They got Anthony Hargrove.
It's third down.
Yeah, they got Hargrove, and I guess they whistled it because they felt he was unabated to the quarterback because Eli Manning's a veteran quarterback. He knows that you got him off sides. Now you got a free play. You got a chance to take a shot and throw it anywhere down the field, not worried about an interception. It's a good job at the line of scrimmage by Eli Manning, keeping that pass rush, on third down at bay.
Four down, finish that with the mic.
The third and 9 goes to third and 4.
Offense, 5-yard penalty. Third down.
How does that happen?
It's interesting, Tom. Last week we had the Cowboy-Lions game, and it happened to the Lions about 3 different times in that ball game after a penalty, just like what we just saw. And so you ask the question, how does that happen? It shouldn't happen. You've got a play called. It should be easy to handle. But they start the play clock so fast. I mean, right now this play clock's at 10 seconds again. And I think they're just starting the play clocks faster than what these quarterbacks are realizing, and that's why they're running out of time after a penalty.
That one had no chance from the get-go. So the Giants will punt it after getting the turnover forced by Umanura.
Yeah, I think all in all, the Giants have got to feel pretty good about the fact that they didn't give any points up after the strip fumble on Eli Manning. And then O.C. Umanura able to get it right back.
And now Weatherford punts from his end zone. And Leon Washington waiting on it. That checks up. So the Seahawks will start a second straight drive in Giants territory. We're tied at 7.
Aaron, you're all set.
Long way from home, these Seahawks. Going east has certainly not been kind to them in the Eastern time zone. It's been a while. They've dropped 11 of their last 12 against the NFC East. 0 for their last 6 and humiliated, really. It's ironic their last win came against an NFC East team in Philly in 2007.
It is tough on those West Coast teams to travel. They all those teams, on the West Coast, Oakland, Seattle, San Diego, they typically travel more than any team each and every season. I don't remember the San Francisco 49ers having a lot of trouble east back in the day.
Marshawn Lynch after the fumble. And he is spun close to the end zone, and he's at the 1-yard line. So after giving it up on his last carry, A big gainer for Lynch.
We'll check and see. Yep, he was out right there, and really a great block by right tackle James Carpenter to secure that edge. You know, they haven't had many runs like that through the first 4 weeks of the season.
That's a 47-yard carry. He'd only had one rush all year long, over 15 yards.
Scoop.
He got him there, and he gets him into the end zone. Lynch's second rushing touchdown of this season. And it started, of course, the first play after the short punt with a 47-yard run. And if a guy gets you that close, you may as well give him dessert.
You can see the big block there by number 75, James Carpenter. He's the rookie at the right tackle position, and he's the guy who made the key block that sprung Marshawn Lynch there on the edge. And he's a big man, and when he starts moving people, and they move a long way. It's got to feel good for Marshawn Lynch. I mean, the guy takes a pounding each and every week. There has not been a lot of running room for him, and this is a good job on his part. You see the push and the surge, and there's contact made by Antrell Roll, but Marshawn Lynch is a difficult guy to get to the ground one-on-one. Pete Carroll is excited. You know, they felt that a couple of weeks ago when they played Arizona, they did some nice things, and they were able to win that game. And then they came out last week against Atlanta and really struggled there in that first half. And then they went to the no huddle, down 20 points, and they made a game out of it. And they lost, as you know, by 2. But he thought that they started to show some things in the second half of that game. And even though they are out here in New York against a quality opponent, he was really hopeful that they would continue to show some positive signs of growth. And they sure have here in this half.
Well, you always shake the hand of the guy who had the touchdown, but the big fella up front, you were talking about him earlier, Carpenter, springing Lynch loose.
I like James Carpenter. I like the other rookie at right guard, John Moffitt. I think that's the strength of that offensive line, is the right side. And what's interesting, the top 2 picks this year taken offensive linemen. Last year's #1 pick, Russell Okun. There's obviously a concerted effort by the Seahawks organization to solidify that offensive line.
Well, really, at the end of the day, Troy, who knows better than you? I mean, you know, obviously you did your thing in Dallas, but you were always the first to point out those guys up front made it all happen.
Well, you know, I mean, when you get in the draft, it's not fantasy football. I think sometimes it's hard on general managers. It's certainly hard for the fans to accept that, you know, it's not real flashy when you take an offensive line, but you got to have those guys. You know, no one can do anything if you don't have the protection, you don't have the hosses up front that can move people out. This group here in the years to come, I think, are going to be pretty good.
Devin Thomas to bring it out. And he is leveled out at the 17-yard line. Of course, football today on Fox. Tonight, back to baseball. Last night, game 1, a matchup of aces. But the Rangers bats jumped on Justin Verlander early. The bullpen nailed it down. And now Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers try and even a series before going back to the Motor City. American League Championship Series tonight here on Fox. Joe Buck, Terry Francona on the call, and certainly our very, very best to our good friend who will be back for game 3, Tim McCarver.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to hearing Tim McCarver again, and I enjoyed listening to Terry Francona. You know, I mean, from a fan's perspective, we certainly see him in the dugout. We don't get a chance to hear his perspective on the game, and that was enjoyable last night with him and old Joe Buck. Although Terry did say he wanted my job, so.
Well, then why are you talking nice about
it? You know, I take all that back. I didn't think he was good at all. No, I'm kidding. He was great. But you still can't have my job.
No. Teron Johnson injured a moment ago. He'll go back up into the locker room.
Finish that play. Yeah. Hard. Put out set. Wow.
Victor Cruz escapes one tackle. And he has dropped up the 26-yard line. Let's check in back in L.A. with Kurt Benefield.
How about Adrian Peterson? He's already tied a career high with 3 touchdowns in a game, and they're still in the first quarter. This one from 14 yards out gives them a 28-0 lead over Arizona. Tom, Troy, and Pam, the Vikings have scored 4 touchdowns in 6.5 minutes.
Big game already for Adrian Peterson. Been very frustrated with what's going on there in Minnesota about not getting the ball enough.
Well, big game for Adrian Peterson's alma mater yesterday against the Texas Longhorns, too.
You're not lying. Very close to a first down on the carry by Bradshaw, depending on the spot. That's a first down.
We talk about offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks. I know that the struggles that New York has had running the football effectively, you know, there's a lot of things there. They've got some different guys lined up along that offensive line, some different looks, a different left tackle. David Deal moves down to guard. They've got a new center in here today because of the injury to Boss, a different fullback, different tight end. A lot of things there have kept them from being able to run the football as effectively as they had thought coming into the year.
Bradshaw out of the backfield. And he has another giant first down up to the 39-yard line. Clock closing in on 1 minute left in the opening quarter. Well, I talked about the run game, and take a look at this. You got to go a long ways back to 1953 since they had roughly the same rushing yards per game. They only have 1 run this season of over 20 yards.
It's really pretty remarkable. You know, last year they were second in the league in runs of 20 yards or more, and you know, this year they're near the bottom. I think another reason for that, it's easy to point to some of the new faces, and as Chris Snee would tell you, they're all pro right guard. Hey, you know, we can't use any of that as excuses, and I would agree with that. They've been playing now, you know, this is the 5th game of the season. They went through the preseason together. But teams know that this is a team that wants to run the football, and so they are getting that extra defender up in the line of scrimmage, and that's what has afforded Eli Manning to make some of the plays that he has in the passing game. Right now, Earl Thomas up there is the safety for the Seahawks.
Well, they read that one right from the start. Raheem Brock dropping Bradshaw for a loss. That'll be the final play of the opening quarter. A very entertaining opening quarter. Seattle on the road leading 14-7. Fox NFL Sunday returns after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Rushing yards. The Giants defense has really been gouged in the run game the last 2 weeks. Third and 11. They need to get to midfield. Cruz tried to stretch out, but a half-yard short.
Half-yard short, and here at midfield you say, well, Tom Coughlin's got a decision to make, but he doesn't. He's going to punt. And this is a nice stop here by Seattle. Last week they were not good getting off the field on 3rd down. Here in the early going of this game, they have yet to give up a 3rd down conversion on 3 tries for the New York Giants.
Into the open space. There's a flag that comes down as he brings it out to the 26-yard line. Of course, at one time he was such a huge part of that New York Jets return game. In fact, he was a huge part of their offense, running the ball, catching passes out of the backfield. Not used as much under Pete Carroll in those roles.
By the receiving team on the play, holding number 39, that is declined. There was also an illegal block in the back, number 46. A penalty is enforced 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
46 come in at the bottom of the screen. That was the block in the back. Not a very smart play there. I mean, that guy had no opportunity whatsoever to get involved in that play.
And you get the hold on Browner there, 39. So they'll back him up inside the 15. Low snap. The first set for maybe 2. Very solid opening drive by Jackson when he completed 5 of the 7 passes, taking him into the end zone. Lynch had the 47-yard run and followed that with a 1-yard touchdown. Linval Joseph got a hand on that pass. 3rd down.
And we talked coming into this game that Mike Williams would not be playing, and so Sidney Rice becomes even a bigger factor in this ball game. And Corey Webster, number 23 for the Giants, he's going to be shadowing Sidney Rice for most of this game. That's not to say that he's always going to be matched up one-on-one with him. Sometimes he's going to get some safety help, as he did on that last play, but he's going to be the guy who initially is in coverage, if not in man-to-man.
What a throw and what a catch. The undrafted rookie free agent out of Stanford, Doug Baldwin, the Seahawks leader in both receptions and receiving yards.
And does he get his feet down? There's one. And there's the second one. Does a nice job, and that was about as good a throw as you can make right there. It's pretty good coverage. You got a safety coming over the top, and he dropped it right in.
Right back to Baldwin across the middle, and he's to the Giant 38-yard line.
This Doug Baldwin, he's a special player. I mean, hard to imagine an undrafted wide receiver having the impact that he's having, you know, here as a rookie. Obviously a smart kid. He went to Stanford, but he has been from day one a guy that this coaching staff said he's going to help us, and boy has he. Now he's come into this game as the team's leading wide receiver. Part of that is because Sidney Rice missed the first 2 weeks, but he's exceptional.
Now back to the ground game. Lynch for a gain of 13 to the Giants 25-yard line. I think it's amazing about Baldwin not getting drafted. You're playing with Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Well, a lot of teams wondering now why they didn't draft him. I mean, he's just what I would term a guy who's very quarterback friendly. You see that route right there? He's got a good feel for where the holes are in these zones, and then also how to beat man coverage. Some guys, it takes years for them to learn that. He's done it here in the first quarter of the season.
Jaquan Williams drags down Lynch, but not before a gain of 7.
You know, talking to Pete Carroll and asking him what are the keys to this game, one of them was we have got to keep the defensive pass rush of the Giants off of Tarvaris Jackson, and they really haven't gotten to him all that much. More times than not, he's had a lot of time in the pocket to look around and get to his checkdowns, even when there's been pretty good coverage down the field.
For a set, as a penalty flag comes in from behind the line of scrimmage.
Holding offense, number 67. 10-yard penalty, repeat 2nd down.
That's Paul McQuiston, the only lineman with any real experience whatsoever along this Seattle front.
Yeah, and he's replaced Robert Gallery, who just had groin surgery this week and has missed a couple of games, and you know, it's an untimely penalty right there. I think if you talk about the offensive line and how young they are, and Paul McQuiston being the oldest of the group, I mean, that position throughout the season, no matter who's been there, has probably been the weakest link of that offensive line.
Threw it in the only place where Obamanu could get it.
And you got that right. I mean, that's a risky throw right there. If you don't throw it on that outside shoulder to the sideline, that ball by Aaron Ross is intercepted and going the other way for a touchdown.
3rd and 8. thing again. And what a beautifully thrown ball by Tarvaris Jackson, very close to a first down.
You know, that's not an easy throw to make either, but it's a back shoulder. You're going to see Obamanu against Aaron Ross, and there's nothing Aaron Ross can do about that. You guard against the fade, you play over the top of the receiver, but when you have the timing like Tarvaris Jackson just had, first down.
Actually, they spotted that ball about a foot short of the first down, and they got up to the line of scrimmage, and Jackson makes it official. It is a first down.
Yeah, they didn't have any hesitancy there making that decision, coming up short. Didn't ask for any type of measurement, just decided, hey, we're going for it on fourth down. They pick it up. Berryfield can't be happy about what he's seen here in this first half with an offense that up until last week had really not shown much.
Blitz coming, they pick it up. Obamanu spins his way inside the 10 down to the 7-yard line.
There's no doubt that Darrell Bevell has a lot of confidence in Tarvaris Jackson. Now remember, Tarvaris Jackson came to Minnesota when Darrell Bevell was the offensive coordinator under Brad Childress, and so Darrell Bevell is the only offensive coordinator that Tarvaris Jackson has known. He knows this offense as well as anybody on the field, and they're trusting him right now down in the red zone to be protective of the ball and not make any mistakes.
First man through is the fullback Michael Robinson, the former Penn State quarterback, who converted to the fullback position after originally starting his career with the 49ers.
And now they're bringing in the Seattle, that is, bringing in their extra lineman because of the third and short. They bring in their sixth guy. I'm going to let you pronounce that.
See it for me. God, I wish I could do that to you sometime. I might. Robinson gets it, and he gets the first down.
Well, that's what a good play-by-play guy does. He makes the announcement on who's in the game. But, you know, this has got to be demoralizing right now for this Giants defense. I mean, there's no real spark on this defensive group. You know, they're just kind of walking around, and Seattle is putting it on them.
Robinson one more time, and the ball's loose. Wow. Second big turnover for the Seahawks deep in Giants territory. And the question I'm sure a lot of Seattle Seahawks fans are asking is, Robinson's carried the ball one time all year, and you give it to him 3 plays in a row.
Most refreshing beer by the Droid Bionic, made from machines to rule all machines, only at Verizon, and by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers.
A fumble early in the red zone by Marshawn Lynch, and now a fumble by Robinson inside the 5.
Yeah, one possession game right now. The Giants are fortunate that this isn't a 3-possession game.
DJ Blair checks into the game for the first time and picks up a yard.
You go back and take a look at this fumble. Michael Robinson, he's going to get the ball secured by Tarvaris Jackson, but he just simply runs into right guard John Moffitt, and the ball comes out. Nobody really punched at it. There wasn't a helmet. And you've got to have much better ball security down here around the goal line than that. You got to expect contact, and it can't come out that easy. But Pete Carroll, we saw the look on his face going to commercial there, and you know, I mean, you're on the road and you're up 7 points, and you've already given the ball back to the opponent twice inside the red zone.
Flag comes in. Akeem Nicks, the intended receiver, looked like he got tied up with Brandon Browner.
Looked like there was contact, certainly. Not disputing
Before
that.
The pass was thrown, holding defense number 39. It's a 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and an automatic first down.
I still think it was a miscommunication, though, with him and Eli Manning. I mean, clearly, they'll call that a dig route by Akeem Nicks. He's trying to run to the middle of the field, and then Eli Manning threw it as though he expected him to go up the field. So definitely pass interference, but if there hadn't have been pass interference, they didn't have a chance of completing that pass.
Hakeem Nicks does not have a reception so far in the game. Coming off 10 catches for 162 yards last week in Arizona. Manning across the 10 and step out of bounds at the 12.
Hakeem Nicks, he's a guy who generally likes this type of game. He likes a guy who's going to get physical with him so he can use his body. But the Seattle Seahawks are doing a good job of disrupting his ability to get off the line of scrimmage. And Eli Manning really hasn't hung with them very long to get off the coverage. And that's why he hasn't yet had a reception.
Handed off to Ware, and he took a lick from David Hawthorne. Third down, and we'll call it 4 upcoming for the Giants.
David Hawthorne, you're right. He came up and made a big-time hit right there. When you hear them all the way up here in the booth, you know they're big time.
You miss those, don't you?
Oh, no, I don't. I think I took too many of them.
Low snap. And Manning was sacked all the way back to the 2-yard line. And again, it was Clemens there to get him first. Well, Clemens has really become an outstanding pass rusher.
Yeah, he had a straight shot at him. You know, I mean, you're going to see him coming off the edge here, and because of the deep drop here by Eli Manning, there really wasn't much. It looked like Will Beatty, the left tackle, was expecting Eli Manning to maybe set up a little bit shorter in the pocket, because he sure gave Clemens a straight line to where Eli Manning eventually was.
Now Weatherford puts a foot on it. Good punt. Jason Washington back to the 41. And he brings it right to midfield. Flag down. Far side.
During the kick, holding by the receiving team, number 39. 10-yard penalty enforced from where the punt was caught. Seattle keeps the ball, first down.
Still good field position after the penalty on Browning. Browner whistled for the infraction. First down, Seahawks leading by 7.
In crossovers.
Third straight possession. A punt for Eli Manning and the Giants.
False start offense, number 7. 5-yard penalty. It's first down.
You know, Tom, to put into perspective how good Seattle has been offensively here in this first half. Think about it. Coming into this game, they had the worst offense in all of football through 4 games, averaging just 250 yards a game. Here they are with 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and they've already gotten 220 yards in this game.
Dropped is Jackson by Jason Pierre-Paul, an emerging force on this Giant defensive line.
That's kind of what they needed. Jason Pierre-Paul, they just needed somebody to be able to get in there and get Tarvaris Jackson out of his rhythm. A good move to the outside, coming underneath, straight line then to Jackson for the sack. Now, this guy has been a heck of a player in a short period of time, and a guy who's still learning. I mean, just a freak of a player. And he's going to get nothing but better.
Now it's 5.5 sacks on the year. That leads his team. They hand it off on second down and long before set. Foley and Williams there on the stop. You know, you're talking about all the yards for Seattle, but you know how these coaches and players look at it. on the Seattle sideline. They're kicking themselves because they could easily have right now a 28-7 lead.
Well, that's right. And so, you don't take advantage of those points, and a team like the Giants, eventually, they're going to have a surge of their own. And, where they've been kind of they've been sleepwalking here through the first half defensively. They're showing something here on this possession.
Denied the first down yardage on the catch by Golden Tate. So a big defensive stand, and the Giants needed it.
They did, and yet that was a nice completion by Tarvaris Jackson to Golden Tate, because it was 3rd and long, and although they don't pick up the first down, the Giants defensively, that's great. They're going to get off the field, but when you look at what that meant for field position, at least they're helping their defense out. They should be helping them out if the Giants fail to have a big return here.
Punt is returnable for Ross. And a good return to the 29-yard line. The Giants playing without one of their leaders, Justin Tuck, but Pierre-Paul and company stepping up on that last stand. 7-point game. Giants have the football. 3:42 to play until halftime. Total yards overwhelmingly in favor of Seattle, but the Seahawks fumbled twice in the Giants' red zone, and thus just a 7-point spread. Intercepted. Thomas back on his feet, and Seattle gets the ball at midfield. So Manning, who had a league-high 25 interceptions last year, just his 3rd this year, but the Seahawks back in business. This pick thrown by Eli Manning, spanning his last 99 pass attempts.
Hey, slip, 5-9, triple.
Thomas led him in interceptions as a rookie last year with 5. They give it to Leon Washington, and that's a gain of close to 5.
Well, for the most part, Seattle has had, you take away some of those penalties that have pushed them back. I mean, they've had awfully good field position throughout this first half. An early start there by Anthony McCoy.
Start offense, number 85. 5-yard penalty. It's 2nd down.
Go back to that interception. You see Earl Thomas right here. He's going to work to the middle of the field. Eli's got to hold him. Here's the problem. The release is inside by Nix. That's okay, but the ball has to be thrown out on the sideline. When you throw the ball just outside those numbers, Earl Thomas has got too much range not to be able to make that play. Just really a poor throw by Eli Manning, not getting to the outside.
Washington wrapped up by Jimmy Kennedy. Bring up a 3rd down and 8. Boy, penalties these last 2 drives have hurt Seattle. They had the penalty on the punt, a 1st down penalty, making it 1st and 15.
Penalties and red zone turnovers.
Dangerous throw there. Good coverage by Williams. So after getting the interception, it is 3 and out. That is back-to-back big defensive stops for the Giants.
I think that, looking at it a little more realistically, you've got to get a chance. I don't know if that ball got deflected just a little bit or just enough. But even though the Giants defensively have given up a lot of yards, they've just given up 14 points because, they have made a stop, as we talked about, down in the red zone and kept points off the board.
That one will bounce into the end zone. So with all 3 timeouts remaining, Eli Manning and the Giants get the ball back, trailing 14-7. Troy, you've been on that sideline. I mean, when you're Seattle right now, I would imagine a little reluctant to feel great about the way things are going. You feel good but it could be a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, they know they've missed out on some opportunities. More importantly, on the other side with the New York Giants, 2 big wins the last 2 weeks on the road, coming from behind, and now you get a game at home. This is a game that I think a lot of people were a little worried about, including, you know, that organization and the staff with the New York Giants. This is a game on the road you're expecting big things from, and then you come out and you just don't show up the way that you expected to.
On first down, Anthony Hargrove was bearing down on Eli Manning before he had a chance to even try and find a receiver.
Well, you know, the Giants had the big drive there offensively to start the game after the Seattle Seahawks had gone down and got the touchdown. The Giants match, and they just really haven't done anything since.
Blitz coming. Incomplete. Got an eye on Travis Beckham. Let's send it back to Kurt Menefee in Los Angeles.
Well, Tom, I saw on Twitter this week that Troy said the option play wouldn't work for him, which is why he wasn't at Oklahoma. It works for Cam Newton in Carolina. The pitch to D'Angelo Williams taking 69 yards for the score. And Carolina inches a bit closer to the Saints, 17-13. That one just before halftime.
Tell you what, I had a chance to see Cam Newton in person last week. That is one impressive quarterback.
Yeah, I ran the option one time as a rookie for the Cowboys against Carl Banks, and he turned my helmet backwards.
Ringo.
They just do get it off, and a snap is low. It's on the ground. Do the Seahawks have another turnover? Boy, this has been downright ugly for the Giants since that opening possession. Giants will punt.
Today's game is sponsored by AT&T. Get it faster with 4G. Rethink possible.
From A-10 Thunderbolts to UH-60 Blackhawks, the pregame flyover has long been a way to recognize the freedoms we share due to the sacrifices of our nation's military, and continues to be a thrilling opening for the on-field action across the NFL.
USAA. We know what it means to serve. Let us serve you.
This telecast is copyrighted by the NFL for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this telecast or of any pictures, descriptions, or accounts of the game without the NFL's consent is prohibited.
That fumble by Eli Manning was covered up by his center, Kevin Booth.
Leroy Hill had a great opportunity at it.
Rutherford punts again. Flags are down. Great punt. Chasing Washington back to the 22 and a good return. 20-yard return. But we wait on the penalty.
Well, here's that fumble, and Leroy Hill has it right there. You know, it's between his legs, and how he wasn't able to recover that is beyond me. But then McKenzie comes in, and he gets it back for the Giants. And actually, it's Kevin Booth who recovered it. But you think about all the things that have happened here in this first half. Of course, we've addressed the turnovers that they've had in the red zone. But if Leroy Hill is able to secure that fumble, they give the ball right back to the offense in the red zone once again.
Remember, the kicking team, number 30, went out of bounds on his own, which is a 5-yard penalty. That penalty has been elected by Seattle to be enforced from the end of the punt return. Seattle's ball, first down.
So this should mark the ball, if I'm not mistaken, right around the 48-yard line.
You see, he went out of bounds there.
It's Justin Tryon. They just brought him in this week. They've had so many injuries in the secondary going all the way back to training camp. Play fake. What a catch, one-handed catch by Leon Washington. That's a gain of almost 7.
A really nice catch, but you know, a pretty good throw there by Tarvaris Jackson too. The guy running away from you, not a long throw, but not an easy throw to lay out. I mean, that ball's behind in man coverage. You got some trouble.
Protection begins to break down, and Pierre Paul trips up Jackson. Seahawks have all 3 timeouts left.
And here's that catch here by Leon Washington, and he's able to secure it in. And, you know, it's amazing. He's got the gloves on, as most of these guys do, and how many more catches we see like that because of the stickiness of these gloves that these guys are now wearing. They didn't have those back all that long ago.
Wow, what a poor decision. Perhaps the first bad one of the day by Tarvaris Jackson. It's intercepted by Aaron Ross.
It was one of those deals where there just wasn't anywhere to put the ball. Aaron Ross squeezes the receiver to the sideline. And then where are you going to make that throw? Well, there's nowhere to really put it. You want to try to work him back down the sideline, but Aaron Ross has got a beat on it, so no matter where you put it, it's likely going to be intercepted. That's just a great defensive play, great technique there by Aaron Ross, ending that drive.
Of course, Ross has had an up-and-down career, an up-and-down season. You may remember the last time they played here, he got pulled out of the game against the Rams before coming back the very next week and had 2 interceptions against Philadelphia.
Hey, as ugly as it's really been for the Giants, they've been opportunistic. I mean, from the standpoint of minimizing the damage. And
that play is not under review. It is confirmed.
I think on the one hand, you'd be, you know, you're happy if you're Seattle. You come in here and you said, hey, if we're going to have a 14-7 lead at halftime and do the things that we've done, you'd be pretty happy about that. But when you look at the whole body of work here in this first half, I mean, you're just kicking yourself knowing that this game could be out of control.
First catch by Hakeem Nicks. And he's run out of bounds at the Seattle 47-yard line. Clock continues to run. Giants have 3 timeouts left. Visa halftime report coming up.
I'm surprised with 3 timeouts they didn't burn one here. I think they're wasting a lot of time with that many timeouts left.
Manningham the catch, steps out of bounds, stopping the clock with 23 seconds left. Visa halftime report upcoming. Kurt, Terry, Michael, and Jimmy bring you up to date on what's going on around the league, including the heavy hearts in Oakland after the passing of Al Davis.
This would be a great way to end this first half for the Giants if they're able to come away with any kind of points. Clearly, they want a touchdown. They've got plenty of time to do that with timeouts to spare. But even if they were to come away with a field goal here, a big momentum shift that they desperately need. Discussion going on over here on the sideline with Pete Carroll, and I'm not real sure what for.
The ruling on the field is a first down.
I think Pete was wondering about the spot of the ball there. I don't think Pete is happy about the spot. Only a 1-yard differential, but of course we've seen the difference in 1 yard in this game already today. Seattle fumbled at the 1-yard line. Clock runs on the completed pass to Nicks to the 20. And the Giants use their first timeout. Giants offense, you go back to the touchdown to Ballard. They've since fumbled, punted 3 in a row, the interception, a punt, and now moving it in the 2-minute drill.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a defensive play in order to kind of ignite things offensively, you know, when you've been struggling. And you know, it appears right now at least that the interception by Aaron Ross to kill that drive with, once again, what was good field position for Seattle. And the Giants come right back now in their hurry up offense, and you know, they're in a position now to at least attempt a field goal. But with 2 timeouts left, you can bet that Kevin Gilbride, you know, he knows that you don't have to necessarily go into the end zone here, first down. But they've got a couple chances now to try to come away with a touchdown and know that they've got at least a field goal in their pocket.
From a 19. Touchdown, Hakeem Nicks.
Well, the rookie Richard Sherman's getting a little bit more playing time because of the injury to Marcus Trufant. Actually, it's Walter Thurman. I thought it was Richard Sherman who was in coverage, but nevertheless, it was a good route by Hakeem Nicks. Good timing as well on Eli Manning. You see, as soon as Thurman turns around, the ball was beautifully placed, and Hakeem Nicks is then able to go out and make that catch.
Of course, both Thurman and Sherman playing in place of the injured Trufant. My, oh my. To think the way this game has played through nearly an entire half, it's unbelievable. It's 14-14.
I think the Giants are pretty happy about that. You know, and I think that'll be the message by Tom Coughlin when he goes in at halftime, is that we couldn't really have played any worse than we played, but yet we minimized the damage. We made some plays when we kind of had to defensively with the takeaways, and here we are 14-14. And I always felt that, you know, the team that can score right before the half has a sizable advantage then entering the second half. And so for the Giants to tie this ball game up the way that they were able to just do that, I think that's going to really help them as they start the second half of this game.
Those were the first points scored off turnovers, and there have been 5 of them in this game. Hakeem Nicks injured his knee in the season opener against Washington, despite the fact that he had over 100 receiving yards in that game, and really didn't do much the next 2 weeks. But last week, the game-winning touchdown, 162 receiving yards, and what a very pleasant young man out of the University of North Carolina. Washington going to sprint to the sideline. And out of bounds at the 35. One play for the Seahawks.
We'll see what Seattle attempts to do. If you could try a quick pass to the sideline, get someone out of bounds, set up, then maybe you got enough arm strength to get it into the end zone on a Hail Mary. But obviously you can't get it from here. They're just going to take a knee.
So the Seahawks, who come east where they haven't won since 2007, in a 14-14 tie. These are halftime report coming up after these messages and a word from your local Fox. Great pictures there. Certainly a lot of momentum swings in the first half. Seattle certainly goes to the locker room, Troy Aikman, feeling like you could be ahead at the minimum 28-14. The bottom line is it's a tie game as we head for the third.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously disappointed. A couple things here. One, the Giants, with their score there to end the first half, they get the ball here to start the second half. A young team in Seattle. How well are they going to handle the disappointment of not being able to capitalize on some opportunities there in the first half and come out and play, a solid second half of this game?
We'll follow your favorite team all season long. Go to iTunes.com/NFL. Well, the Giants offense after the very first drive did nothing from then until the final drive, when for the first time during the entire game, Eli Manning able to find Hakeem Nicks on 3 completions, including a touchdown to tie the game in the final seconds of the opening stanza. So here we go to begin the second half. That one blasted in the back of the end zone. And some of the numbers in the first half, certainly it's where numbers can be extremely deceiving.
Well, Tom Coughlin, each and every week, he said he gets in front of the team and talks about the turnover battle and how important that is. And yeah, we saw the Giants turn the ball over as well, but those takeaways defensively, those were huge plays in the first half, and it's why we're sitting here with a 14-14 tie.
4 down, 57 to Mike. Sit. 518. Right, touch.
Black comes in late. Manning with all day to throw. Finally under a little pressure. Lays it off to Bradshaw. But more than likely coming back.
Well, he did have all day, too, and to have that kind of time and then take a hit the way he did.
Number 66, 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
That explains why he had so much time. Left guard David Deal is who they said had the holding call. Might have actually been there on left tackle Will Beatty, but you see the amount of time there that Eli Manning had in the pocket, and then at the end of this, Chris Clemens, he still gets up and flattens Eli.
Beatty getting a chance to play left tackle regularly at 6 starts his first 2 years. Then injured his foot 8 games in the last season.
180. 100.
Let's check in downstairs with Pam.
Well, Tom, Pete Carroll was not flustered. He was not angry, but what he wouldn't give to have those turnovers back. He said that we felt like the offense, though, showed some things, and he feels like they will have an opportunity to do some good things in this half. Tom Coughlin also said that the turnovers also showed that they lack some poise in certain situations, and they will have some opportunities as well. Back to you.
All right, Pam, thank you very much. Tom Coughlin going all the way back to training camp. Kept pounding the words "need to finish" over and over to this team. Final 4 games of last year, they faltered, especially in the fourth quarter of games. They've been very good in the second half of games this year. But down goes Manning again in the arms of Alan Branch, his first sack of the year.
Well, it's just a great play in the middle there by Alan Branch, 99. You're going to see him here, and he just beats right guard Chris Snee. I mean, he's on top of Eli Manning before Eli even knows what's happened. We've got a couple nice plays here now. Of course, we had the holding penalty there on left tackle Will Beatty, but the sack, and so the Giants to start this second half are going in the wrong direction.
On 3rd and forever, they need to get to the 20 for a first down, and is that a catch? It is a catch, but he appears to be about, well, we'll wait and see where they put it down. Well short of the first down. That's where they started his drive, out of the 20. Needed to get to the 30.
Well short of the first down, but kind of like what we talked about there in the first half with Seattle when they failed to convert on a 3rd and long. That goes a long way in helping your defense out with this punt and what it means for field position.
Real good punt by Weatherford. And another good solid return by Washington. He's up to the 35-yard line. We're tied just minutes into the third.
By Chase. Don't get shortchanged. Get your cash back with Chase Freedom. By Ram Trucks. Guts, Glory, Ram. And by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go.
Seemingly the entire game, Seattle has had sensational, not good, sensational field position. And their opening possession of the second half starts at their own 35. Sidney Rice lost the ball. Marshawn Lynch picks it up and appeared to get back to the line of scrimmage. Somebody's about to get a penalty in here somewhere unless they can break it up, which they do. Michael Foley in the middle of all that, along with Okun.
A couple things in there, Tom, was one, did Sidney Rice make the catch? And it looked like he sure did, and that's why the ball came out, because initially I couldn't tell if he actually made the catch or was it a backward pass. And if it was a backward pass, didn't matter if he made the catch. It's a live ball. It was a live ball there as well.
Set up a screen to Lynch. He's up to the 39. 3rd down and 6 coming up.
Well, we talked about it coming in, Tom, about how successful they were last week against Atlanta in the second half in the no-huddle offense. And they've had a lot of success with it here today. Over 200 yards of offense in the first half. They're going back to it as you would expect. I think they found something that really allows Tarvaris Jackson to have some real comfort there in the pocket until he gets sacked.
Kiwanuka there to wrap him up and throw him down. 3 and out. This Giant defense, the last 4 possessions, has really gotten it done.
Yeah, they have. You know, you saw that at the end of the first half. They started to get a little bit of energy. Matthias Kiwanuka, I mean, they got so many guys. You see Justin Tuck, who's as happy for him as he is himself. But they, you know, between Tuck, who's not playing, and O.C. Umanura, Matthias Kiwanuka, and then, of course, Pierre Paul, they've got some guys that can get after the quarterback.
See where they spot it.
Wow.
30. Apiece. 11:07 to play in the 3rd quarter. Giants with a football from their own 30.
5-18. 5-10.
When this run-stingy Seattle defense just allowing next to nothing again.
Yeah, you're going to see the offensive leaders here for the New York Giants, and you know, Eli Manning having a decent game, of course the 1 interception, but Ahmad Bradshaw here, as far as running the ball, you know, as expected, they have not had success running the football. So, you know, as you look at this second half, anything that they do is going to have to be through the air. So they've got to do a better job of protecting Eli Manning in the pocket. Think about it. Seattle defensively has only, now nothing has gone today as we had expected, but Seattle defensively has only given up 1 second-half touchdown all season long. I mean, so they've been pretty tough the last 30 minutes of these games.
Pretty good running room that time for Bradshaw to bring up 3rd down and short.
They bring up 3rd down, and this is a down that Seattle has dominated here in this game. The Giants have not yet converted on 3rd down, and you know, at the end of the day, that's what this game's about. I mean, the turnovers, and then who can convert on 3rd and who can get off the field on 3rd down. And Seattle's done a great job defensively of forcing the Giants to punt after 3rd downs throughout this game.
Darrell Scott checks in. Eli looking around. What a nice play made by Brandon Browner. He has spent the last 4 years in the Canadian League.
And just great coverage all the way around. I mean, clearly Eli Manning had plenty of time in the pocket to find an open receiver. Somebody's just got to be able to get open for him, and that's a nice job, because that's tough duty right there for a defensive back to maintain coverage as long as they had to, with the protection afforded Eli on that last play.
Well, Weatherford is having an outstanding game. But he outpunts his coverage. And another good return. I mean, Weatherford's banging him 55, 52 there, 60 a moment ago, but Washington with pretty good returns and good field position again.
Call Star NFL from your Verizon phone to get NFL Mobile.
Alongside Troy Aikman and Pam Oliver, our entire Fox crew. Tom Brenneman from East Rutherford, New Jersey, a 14-14 game. Seattle offense has been very quiet their last 4 possessions, but a good pickup on a first-round run by Jackson. That's a gain of 11.
He took a pretty good leg at the end of that play, and you know, as he was running, you could see the collision about to occur, and you know, course, that's why the play's designed, is for him to run, but you're hoping that he gets on the ground and tries to minimize the hit. Deion Grant comes in and hits him in the back of the helmet. They're calling a timeout right now so he can get checked. He's holding his hand. But Tarvaris Jackson, relative to what they have backing him up, they can ill afford to lose him.
Coming off the bench as they're going to take a look at Jackson, either a hand or his shoulder, is Charlie Whitehurst. Came over last year in a trade from San Diego. They got the start from Matt Hasselbeck, you may remember, the final game of the regular season. That was the division clinching game in the victory against the St. Louis Rams. First down carry, maybe a yard for Lynch.
It looked like we'll get a report on what it is exactly, but you see he came off holding his hand, but it looks like it is more to do with his right shoulder. And sometimes when you go down, and they're checking underneath his shoulder pad right now, and a lot of times they're checking then the collarbone.
And meanwhile, we have an injured Giant down. We'll tell you about him when we come back. Canty, the injured Giant, appears to be all right. Was able to walk off under his own power. Meanwhile, Charlie Whitehurst now in the game for Seattle at quarterback. As they continue to look at Tarvaris Jackson, that's his first throw, and he finds Baldwin very close to a first down. And a late flag comes in.
Holding, offense number 87. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat second down.
They come on to make the quick throw to Baldwin, and then Obamanu is the one who's called for the hold right there, which keeps Aaron Ross then from being able to get out there and make the play on what was a pretty good gain. You wonder, we were going to find out after that last play, but you wonder with Charlie Whitehurst coming into the game without much work, I'm sure, during the week with the number ones, backups a lot of times don't get any work, whether they'll stick with the no huddle or if they'll go now to the more conventional huddle and then call the plays and go to the line of scrimmage.
Play action, and Charlie's going to run it. Out of bounds at the 41-yard line, 3rd and 9 upcoming. Get coverage of every NFL game on NFL Mobile. Call Star NFL to get NFL action right on your mobile phone. Whitehurst in the league 6 years. This is only the 9th game he's ever played in.
Well, they went with the no huddle.
Seahawks just can't get out of their own way. All these penalties. End of the first half, and now to begin the second.
Start offense to center. Illegal snap. 5-yard penalty. It's 3rd down.
Let's go downstairs to Pam Oliver.
Well, Tom, the word on Tarvaris Jackson. He has a right shoulder injury, and his return today is questionable. Back to you.
Pam, thanks. That's a shame.
Well, it is, because not only was he playing well today, but he's dealt with a lot of hits throughout the early part of this year, even going back to preseason, and he's hung in there and he's done a nice job with it all.
Well, they're coming after Whitehurst. They're going to roll him out, and his throw is caught by Baldwin, but short of the first down.
It's not bad, though. That's as you said, Charlie Whitehurst hasn't played a whole lot of football in this league. We had the first start last year against these New York Giants, had a tough day, as we see Tarvaris Jackson there underneath the stadium. But to come in and make some of the throws that he has made, and then the penalty set him back, even that 3rd down throw, to at least be able to settle in, knowing that he likely is going to have to finish this game.
Well, here we are midway through this 3rd quarter, and neither team can get it started offensively. End over end punt, and that will be down inside the 5. Richard Sherman there to get it. Inside their own 5, Giants get it with 7:07 to play here in the 3rd quarter. 14-14 game. See the numbers on Manning. An interception, also has lost a fumble.
4 down, set. 180. 100.
And that's a safety. Holy mackerel. Anthony Hargrove. You got to wonder if he was ever touched.
Wow. I mean, he just shot back there into the backfield. Yeah, I think DJ Ware doesn't think he was ever touched, and he wasn't. You got to secure the inside gaps down there, especially, and Anthony Hargrove just comes right through that offensive line and just blows up DJ Ware.
Of course, Hargrove, a guy that the Saints did not want to give up. Hargrove split his first 4 years in the league between St. Louis and Buffalo. Was out of football for a year as he had some off-the-field issues, but then came back in 2009 to play in 16 games, 6 starts for the Super Bowl champions. And he was the Ed Block Courage Award winner for New Orleans, voted on by his teammates with all that he had overcome to get back and play again.
I tell you, that was a nice play, but you know, you can make those kind of plays when nobody gets in front of you or tries to slow you down. You know, I mean, good gosh, 270 pounds just on a straight line on DJ Ware. And so while the defense for the Giants has done a nice job,
a safety.
Now you've got Seattle. They come back, they make a play of their own.
Of course, every scoring play is under review this year in the National Football League, and they're going to make sure that this is a safety.
Yeah, you got to see whether or not the ball was able to get out of the goal line, and you know, I don't, you know, there's a chance that he had broken the plane, gotten the ball out of the end zone into the field of play before the contact was made. Then you'd say, well, forward progress gets him out of the end zone. But I don't know if by that look right there they can, I don't know that they're going to be able to piece this together to be able to make that claim.
Tell you, this is a huge call. I mean, everybody is set up already to kick and give Seattle the football. If indeed he is awarded forward progress here, the Giants are getting the ball back inside the 1-yard line. And we're joined by the former head of NFL officials, Mike Pereira. Mike, how do you see it back there in Los Angeles?
Remember now, we're not talking about breaking the plane here. In order for it not to be a safety, the entire ball must get out into the field to play. And what I see here, you can't really see that. So when you're looking here, this entire ball must get out over the goal line. And I don't think it does. And certainly I don't see where there's enough they could overturn that and say that it does.
Well, we thank Mike Pereira from back in our command center in Los Angeles. Well, the Giants offense is walking back on the field. Of course, I don't know if they know something we don't.
The ruling on the field stands. It is a safety. The entire ball must get entirely out of the end zone, and in order for it not to be a safety.
I think they thought that they were going to influence the decision. Let's act like they got it out of the end zone, and maybe they'll go along with it. They just put their head down and went shuffling back over to the bench.
So with everything that we've had happen, missed chances, fumbles, 2 of them by Seattle, down in the red zone. Our first score here in the second half of all things is a safety. So now a kick from the 20 by the punter Weatherford. And Leon Washington from the 18. And again, that field position we talked about all day.
Here's Eli Manning and Henry Hynoski. They're going to walk out onto the field even before the ruling was made. Oh, I guess not. I think Eli knew all along. The offensive linemen were 20 yards out ahead of him. I think Chris Snee was the leader of that group.
Take a look at what the Seahawks have been unable to do their last 7 possessions. They punted it 4 times, turned it over twice. So they now have a lead. Lynch, good play coming down the line. made by Jaquan Williams. They like Williams a lot, rookie out of South Florida.
Yeah, he's gotten more and more playing time, and they want to be real careful about how much they put on his plate, but every time they ask him to do something, he picks it up pretty well. He's going to be a guy who's going to have a lot more playing time as this year unfolds.
Play action, wide open. Good throw, catch made by Golden Tate. It's going to be interesting to see where they spot this. Deion Grant thought Tate was down, appeared to touch him, and then the play continued and got an extra couple of yards here in hurry-up mode again.
It's pretty impressive for Charlie Whitehurst, who, as I said, probably didn't get hardly any snaps during the week, to come right out here and run this no huddle.
Sidney Rice just tripped up. Well, that had about 15 to 20 more written all over it.
Charlie Whitehurst is, he's a guy who, they have a lot of confidence in his ability, and he's got a heck of an arm. We've seen him show some of that here already.
Foley there to wrap up for set. Williams also in on the stop.
And you see Charlie Whitehurst is telling the group to go ahead and huddle up. Here on third down, I know in talking with Perry Fuel, he would say that even when a team goes no huddle, it doesn't keep us from really running our defense. We're still able to run the blitzes. We're still able to communicate the things that we want to do. So it was not a problem coming into the game for them defensively as to how they were going to go about attacking it. They just simply haven't been able to slow down this Seattle offense outside of the takeaways.
That was an official's timeout, not a timeout. Or was it a timeout charge to Seattle? They had an injured player down in the field, John Moffitt. And they're going to rush him right back into their locker room. Well, that would be a big hit. #1 pick out of Wisconsin. Pierre takes over, and Whitehurst steps out of a sure sack and is still dropped for a 2-yard loss.
Well, it's a good defensive stop, but this play didn't have a chance from the start, really, because of the snap. You're going to see the low snap here by Max Unger, and so that's very tough on a quarterback when you're trying to read blitzes, worried about pressure and the packages that the Giants employ, and not being able to get your eyes down the field, and he just did the best he could and had no real shot at picking up that first down.
So again, the Giants defense able to make a play, and another good punt by Ryan for a second straight possession. The Giants get the ball inside their own 5.
Here's some of the problems that the Giants have had with the snaps as well, with Kevin Booth taking over for David Boss. Came in last week and then, of course, made the start here today. But, when you're not getting the snaps exactly where you want them as the quarterback, and now you can't just concern yourself with the pass routes or reading the coverages, where are the safeties going, where are my hot reads, all those things that are necessary for quarterback play. And now you have to concern yourself right from the start as, okay, where's the snap going to be? That's pretty unsettling.
The first start that Boss has missed in 4 years. Wrapped up after making the catches. Manningham. Gain of close to 5. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
Well, this in territory, Bills have the ball and the lead. Tom, Troy?
Well, the Vikings, or rather the Eagles, of course, have really struggling. What a nice throw. Back shoulder. And coming back to get it, Hakeem Nicks, a first down.
I talked to Eli Manning about this back shoulder throw. They're really good at it here in New York, and it's not something that's predetermined in the huddle. It really is based on what Eli sees, and if he feels that the corner's on top, he'll throw it then to the back shoulder. If he feels that the corner's trailing, he'll go ahead and throw the fade up the field. It's up to the receiver, in this case Hakeem Nicks, to then adjust to the throw. That's great execution.
Hey, 31's a mic. 31's a mic. He's going, Omaha. Hold on, set.
Looking down the field to Manningham, and it's incomplete. Manningham is the home run hitter. And As Giants receiving for tonight, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. Max Scherzer gets the ball for Detroit. Derek Holland for Texas. Legends born in October. Game 2 tonight, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, only on Fox.
You know, of course, Reggie Jackson, he's Mr. October, but you know, here in New York, Eli Manning, his record, they start calling him Mr. October for long.
That's the 3rd year in a row they've gotten off to a good start.
Well, it is. You know, you talked about, you know, Tom Coughlin and wanting to finish here today. I mean, just how about finishing a season? You know, go back to 2009. They began the year 5-0 and failed to make the playoffs, and then last year began the year 6-2 and failed to make the playoffs. And you know, it seems like they always start the year off pretty good, you know, under Tom Coughlin, and yet they've had those years where they've struggled down the stretch, the last 2 in particular. But I think that's why he likes this team. We'll see what happens the rest of this day, you know, as to whether he likes them at some point tonight. But I know he likes the way they finished the last 2 weeks.
Almost intercepted by Thurman. They brought the house against Manning on 3rd down. He had to get rid of it, and that was nearly intercepted.
Yeah, Thurman, he's just able to drive on the ball, and you see he's watching Eli the whole way, and this isn't Eli's fault. I mean, right here, Victor Cruz has got to come back down the line and protect his quarterback and make the play. Now, he's trying to hold the line. He's trying to hold the 1st down line, is why Victor Cruz didn't work back. But you'd rather not have the 1st down and have possession of the ball as opposed to an interception, which almost happened.
Washington able to avoid the sideline. Well, this guy is still such a weapon in the return game. 15-yard return after the 50-yard punt. And of course, the Seahawks playing without Tarvaris Jackson, injuring his right shoulder on that 1st down 11-yard run. And that's his throwing shoulder.
It's a little dangerous over there on the sideline. You got to be real careful, you know, when you always got a get back guy. I don't guess Seattle has one of those players, but how many times do you hear of a coach blowing out a knee because of a play just like that?
1st down, left alone, but out of bounds. Anthony McCoy.
Yeah, Anthony McCoy just lost track of where he was on the field. He got turned around, didn't realize the sideline was as close to him as it was. You know, he was wide open. He's got to throttle that down. Should have been an easy completion.
Sidney Rice for a gain of 9. Covered and tackled by Webster. 3rd down and a yard.
And they're not huddling up. We saw on the 3rd and long on their previous possession they did huddle up. They wanted to make sure they got a good call, but here on 3rd and short, it feels pretty good just going right at it.
What a throw and what a catch made by Rice. I mean, that was great coverage by Webster. There is a penalty flag in a secondary.
Couldn't place that ball any better than what Charlie Whitehurst just did.
Where Sidney Rice had the unbelievable 2009.
Before the pass was thrown, holding defense number 26. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot and an automatic 1st down.
Here's the throw by Whitehurst, and you're going to see just how accurate he had to be with it. You got to get it out in front. But Sidney Rice, I mean, he makes those type of catches. He's got the hands and the strong hands in order to haul those in. It's a nice 3rd down conversion.
That year playing with Brett Favre, of course, in 09 when Minnesota reached the NFC Championship game. Rice had 83 catches for over 1,300 yards, and then he had hip surgery prior to the start of last regular season. Didn't come back to the final 6 weeks. So Whitehurst had an open receiver again, McCoy, but appeared to get bumped by Human Europe.
Yeah, you know, you talk about Sidney Rice, and really up until that year with Favre, he had some injuries, but you know, that nobody was talking about him. Didn't really think of him as being that great of a player. He had the big year in '09 with Favre, and those years that he played prior to Favre were with Tarvaris Jackson. So, you know, we'll see, you know, how the chemistry works as we move through the year between those two guys.
Marshawn Lynch, a big run. He's inside the 30 to the 28-yard line and a first down. Max Unger, the center.
Yeah, Max Unger, he does a nice job of getting out in front and really sealing it right here. You see as he works around, that's what you've got to be able to do, is get in front of that guy, and that guy being Chris Canty, and then the running back comes right off of your hip.
Back to Lynch again. Lynch on the 47-yard carry in the first half. So his yards per carry are off the charts, but a lot of it due to the one rush.
Yeah, a little misleading as far as when you go back and look at this game as to, you know, how the Seahawks were able to run the football. Outside of that one run, they've really struggled. The Giants have struggled running the football as well. Anything that's happened in this game, really offensively for both teams, has had to occur through the air.
Lynch coming down the line here, Cole to make the tackle. Third down at the 24. That'll be the final play in the third quarter. So here we go in the fourth, where both these teams have been very good so far this year. 16-14 set to begin the fourth quarter, and Pete Carroll hoping that Charlie Whitehurst can be the man prior to that very long trip across country to get him a win.
I tell you, he's performed well. I mean, that's not easy to do, and he has stepped in. They haven't missed a beat. They haven't changed anything they've been doing offensively, and he's been throwing the heck out of the ball.
Blitz coming, 3rd and 5, and Whitehurst remarkably held on to the ball despite the hit from his former teammate Deion Grant.
Yeah, Charlie missed him one there. They brought the blitz here on the backside, Deion Grant, and Charlie doesn't see that it's coming. And he gets a free run, and how Charlie Whitehurst was able to hang on to that is beyond me, because he's got his arm back, and when he gets hit, and he's still able to maintain possession. It's a good job by him, but he missed the hot read there of getting the ball out.
Now still on for his first field goal try, 51 yards after the sack. He's got plenty of left, career long of 54, and that was hammered. Wow. Makes you perhaps see why Pete Carroll tried the 61-yarder last week.
I was going to say, he's not afraid to attempt a long field goal.
If you call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get DirecTV. By Burger King. More beef, more value. The $1.99 Toppers burgers, only at Burger King. And by State Farm. For auto, home, life, and banking, get to a better state.
Nine plays, 33 yards. Hauschka, the 51-yard field goal, putting Seattle in front 19-14. Of course, it was last Sunday in the fourth quarter. They were down to less than 6 minutes remaining in a game when Eli Manning and the Giants scored 2 touchdowns less than a minute apart. And a good return by Devin Thomas up to the 35-yard line.
Well, you talk about those comebacks, and that will serve them well, you know, here in this fourth quarter, as you see the great return here by the return team and Devin Thomas. And so this is a group offensively that knows that they can come out and score points and come back from a deficit. You said 10 points down last week with 5 minutes to play, and they pulled it off on the road. Don't forget, Eli Manning, the best in the National Football League in fourth quarter passing. He's been outstanding all year.
And they're going to run the ball on first down. That's pretty much been the story all day long. There's just nothing there. Let's send it back to Kurt Menefee in Los Angeles.
Hey, look at this. Carolina.
Yeah, that tight end duo they have in Carolina. Saw them in Chicago last week. Shockey along with Olsen. That's quite a 1-2 punch out of that position.
Hey, Cam Newton's the real deal, too. I mean, it's not a fluke. You watch him, and he knows what he's doing.
Screen to Bradshaw with running room. Flag comes down. This will probably be a hold against Hakeem Nicks. Looked like he got tangled up with Brandon Browner, trying to spring Bradshaw loose.
Pass interference offense, number 88, was blocking downfield before the pass was caught. 10-yard penalty, repeat second down.
I'm not sure about that one. You know, it looked like he might have been blocking, but I think he got more engaged. I think it was more Brandon Browner who got engaged with him. I think Hakeem Nicks recognizes man coverage, and so he's trying to run him off, and Browner engages with Nicks to keep him from getting off the ball, and I didn't see that it was really blocking on Nicks's part. I didn't see it quite the same way they saw it.
57.
Hinoski had to slowly walk off the field a moment ago. Second down, short pick up on the catch by Cruz. Clock closing in on 13 minutes. There's Hinoski.
Now here they are faced with a 3rd and long, and you know, to go back to kind of what's been one of the storylines for this team, they've not yet converted a 3rd down.
Hey, 3 down. Hey, 57 to Mike. 57 to Mike.
0 for 8.
On that team. Hey.
Looking for Cruz. And it's caught after being tipped, and Cruz to the end zone.
Well, Seattle had perfect coverage downfield. Eli Manning just simply threw that one up, said a prayer. There were 2 defenders down there, Cam Chancellor being the safety that was really over the top of it, and probably should have been able to intercept that ball because he's the one who's driving on it and had the best chance. But Victor Cruz, it goes up in the air, he stays with it and is able to haul it in. That's one of those, they talk about Eli Manning's interceptions being down from a year ago. That one could have very easily have been intercepted. Instead, they'll be talking about what a great play that was, him giving his receiver a chance, and more importantly, Victor Cruz coming up with another big play. This guy's been their big play guy the last 3 weeks.
Going for 2 points here to try and make it a 3-point game. Rounding off. And they convert the 2-point conversion. Victor Cruz. A breakout game against Philadelphia. You'll never forget this one. You'll be watching it all night tonight. Seattle might be watching it all week. Receive a single Division I college scholarship offer coming out of Patterson, New Jersey's Catholic High School. So he went and played 1 AA at UMass. Brought in by the Giants, an undrafted rookie free agent, had the 3-touchdown preseason game against the Jets last year. Wound up playing in just 3 games in the regular season without a catch. But boy, after the injuries to Dominic Hickson, the concussion to Manningham, got that chance against Philadelphia, and he's become a big play man in this offense. A 68-yard score to give the Giants their first lead of the afternoon.
Sponsored by the Ford F-150, the only truck available with EcoBoost.
Crowd into it for the first time all day. Giants with a 3-point lead, nearly an entire quarter left. Baldwin still on his feet. And it'll be a gain of close to 20 on first down. A little misdirection there. They had him looking one way and came back the other way.
It was really well designed. Initially, you're going to see Marshawn Lynch at the top, and it got coverage away from him. Kenny Phillips initially was coming on the blitz, and so he had to go to his left to cover. and they came right back the opposite side with the screen for a nice gain.
Whitehurst backing up, just throws it away.
We'll go back to Victor Cruz. You know, after that play last week, I think he got a little tired of the attention that he got from the media having to explain himself. I think he'll be posting up in his locker all week long, welcoming all the questions about that third down catch.
Yeah, he had enough.
Yeah.
2nd down and 10. They give it to Lynch. He pushes forward for a gain of 5. You may have seen the note down at the bottom of your screen at home. If not, we tell you game 2 tonight in the American League Championship Series called off due to rain. So they'll play game 2 tomorrow.
They're playing coverage on the outside. It looks like Baldwin in the middle is going to be the guy who wins.
Whitehurst appeared to have his eye on just one guy from the time he caught the snap, and it wasn't there.
Yeah, they played inside on the outside receiver, and really took away what Seattle was wanting to do. And Whitehurst, never did even look to the inside where Baldwin was. That was the weakness of the coverage there. And because of the coverage that the Giants ran, there was nowhere then for Whitehurst to throw the ball.
Andover and punt. Loss a fair catch at the 17. Still a long way to go in a back and forth game with the Giants in front by 3. Line for first down. But the tip ball and the juggling one-handed catch a moment ago with a 68-yard touchdown to give the Giants a lead. And we asked him, like everybody else did, about that play last week in Arizona.
All right, guys, for the last time, this is it. Rule 7, Section 2, Article 1. An official shall declare dead ball and the down ended when a runner, me, declares himself down by falling to the ground, which I did, and making no effort to advance, which is what happened. Please let this be the last time I have to answer that question.
Got a good sense of humor. Incomplete on the pass attempt to Jake Ballard.
Rule 2, Section 7, Article 1. Is that
That's it. At Patterson Catholic High, you had to learn the Constitution, and now you got to worry about the NFL rule book.
Hey, but I'll tell you, this guy, he's a nice player. I don't know if they realized just how good he was going to be, but you watch him when he's been given his opportunities, and I talked about it a little bit earlier. There's certain guys that are just quarterback friendly and have a knack for knowing how to get open, and he's one of those guys.
And now a third down again for the Giants on the crossing pattern. They find Cruz, and he is short of the first down. The question is, did he fumble the football in the process? Does it look like he made the catch?
It looked like he made the catch, and he might have been trying to extend to get the necessary yardage to pick up the first down.
And it's Seattle ball.
No, he's just trying to fight to get extra yards. He wasn't extending the ball at all, and they just knocked it out. It looked like it might have been Walter Thurman, who again is getting his opportunity because of the injury to Marcus Trufant, but he comes in and is able to strip it loose.
Had 6 turnovers in the game, 2 of them by Seattle inside the red zone. We've had a safety, 9 sacks, a tip ball that turned into a 68-yard touchdown. And Tom Coughlin can't believe it.
Well, maybe Victor Cruz won't be in front of his locker this week.
Whitehurst rolling, and just throws it away. So here Charlie Whitehurst in relief of Tarvaris Jackson. And Matthias Kiwanuka.
Looks like he's got a cramp in his calf. That's the way he's massaging the back of it and grabbing his toe. And you think about it right now, 3-point lead by the Giants. They get the ball, and you then want to be able to move the ball down the field, come away with points, take time off the clock. Obviously, if you're unable to do that, at least punt. And within a matter of minutes, all of a sudden here you got Seattle on the 25-yard line in a position to at least tie the game and hoping to take the lead.
Iwanuka is okay, it looks like. Well, the Seahawks already well within field goal range. We've seen Hauska hit from 51 yards out today already.
You know, this game is a lot like what the Giants season was last year in terms of takeaways and turnovers. You know, here the offense has turned the ball over 3 times, and then defensively they've kind of saved them in a lot of ways, and they've created 3 takeaways.
About that, they say it's an incomplete pass. That almost looked like a lateral. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
Well, Tom, we want to let you know the Game 2 of the American League Championship Series schedule for tonight has already been postponed due to pending rain in Texas. So Detroit and the Rangers will play tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. You can catch it right here on Fox.
All right, Kurt, thank you. 3rd down and 10. Right now, if they can't move the ball again, they're looking at a 41-yard field goal. But Seattle's thinking about getting a lead. Blitz coming. And Williams never turned around.
That's a great job defensively by the Giants. You know, to give up that kind of field position, you can see they're all out. They're bringing pressure. There's no safety help anywhere across the board. Just one-on-one. Corey Webster here on Sidney Rice, and he does a good job. But for them not to give up a touchdown, giving up that kind of field position based on that fumble by Victor Cruz, that's impressive.
43-yard field goal try for Hauska, trying to tie the game. And he got it. So we begin anew with 10:15 to play in the 4th quarter. Well, for Cruz, that's pretty much the way it goes in a big city. You can go from hero to GOAT in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, that's pretty representative, really, of this whole team. You know, I mean, the offense has come out and looked good initially, then they've struggled defensively. They've given up a lot of yards. They've gotten the takeaways and done some things when they've needed to, and then the individuals such as Victor Cruz. But Tom Coughlin has talked about it. He talked to Pam Oliver coming out at half. Hey, we have to finish. I talked about it. He's very pleased. He likes this team, the way they've handled their business the last couple of weeks, something last year they were unable to do. And you know what? You come into games like this sometimes. It's hard to get up each and every week, and I'm sure after those 2 emotional wins, playing at home against a team that had been struggling like the Seattle Seahawks, they didn't reach the same level of intensity as what you would have against the Philadelphia Eagles or maybe some of the other teams, and now they're in a dogfight. See what happens.
Thomas thought about it, takes a knee. Well, let's take a peek ahead of next week. The NFL on Fox, a doubleheader. Game 1, the Eagles and the Redskins. That's a big one in the NFC East. 49ers and the Lions. Very interesting game. And you and I will be at America's Game of the Week. Dallas Cowboys in New England.
Sorry, Tom. How about the Lions on Monday night, tomorrow night?
That place will be jumping, man.
It's been a long time since those fans in Detroit have got to go to a football game on Monday night.
And they're great fans. They're some of the best fans, most loyal fans in all the professional sports. They've been selling out every game there for decades, and there had been a lot to cheer about for the overwhelming majority of years there in the Motor City. Brought it up earlier, Tom Coughlin. Every day the players will tell you, need to finish, need to finish, need to finish. In the 4th quarter, the final 4 games of last year, they were outscored 49-7. and won 10 games with a tiebreaker. Kept them out of the playoffs. Well, they've outscored the opposition big so far this year. And this is a first down carry for Bradshaw to the 31. Pam Oliver.
Well, Tom, injuries continue to mount for the Seahawks. Outside linebacker Leroy Hill is the latest. He's got a hamstring injury, and he is out for the rest of the day. Back to you.
Already nicked up a little bit on that side of the football coming into the game. They just signed David Vobora earlier this week when their special teams leader Matt McCoy got hurt last week.
Yeah, he's on the field now.
Pump fake. And they lay it off to the big fella. Bear Pasco. And he's up to the 47-yard line, a gain of 17.
That was good patience by Eli Manning, and he was able to remain patient because he had good protection. So he didn't have to try to force a throw. You saw the shoulder fake. He's trying to get some people moved defensively, fit a ball into the outside, but then he's able to come back underneath the Pasco for a nice gain.
518.
And they find the other big fella. That's Jake Ballard. He's still on his feet. That's Bavaro-esque.
You see Jake Ballard, Eli Manning's able to hold this ball. He's just waiting and waiting and waiting for Ballard to get down the field so that he could lay it in there. Eli Manning knew right from the snap that he was the guy who was going to get the ball. It was just a matter of whether or not Ballard was going to get there fast enough so that he could turn it loose. That is somewhat like Bavaro, but I'm not ready to anoint him just yet.
You know I didn't mean it that way. I just meant the way it took 9 guys to tackle it. Bradshaw, good patience. Inside the 10. I'll tell you, Beckham's a guy they thought out of that tight end position was going to be a big player for him. But on this drive, the duo of Pasco, Ballard, and now Pasco with a big block here.
And the guy who has had to kind of carry the load, at least with rushing attempts today because of the injury to Brandon Jacobs, has been Ahmad Bradshaw. You know, I mean, he's had some nice runs here on this possession. It seems like it takes Seattle applying a little pressure here to the Giants for them to really be able to respond offensively.
Where? For a yard. Clock under 7 minutes. The first and goal for the Giants. Bradshaw stays on the sideline.
Go down, 57 to Mike, set. 180. Right, hit it.
False start offense, number 85. 5-yard penalty. It's first down.
It's Ballard.
You're going to see him raise up. Right there is where they got him, and boy, when you get the first down like they did on that second and short, and you know you're in there on the 8-yard line, that's hard, you know, getting a touchdown from that position, and then you back them up now. First and goal here. What are they on, the 12-yard line or what have you? That's tough on an offense.
Wisely throwing it away is Peyton Manning under heavy pressure by Brandon Mebane. Second and goal.
Yeah, so now for Seattle defensively, you know, they've got to make a stop of their own. You know, the difference between a touchdown and a field goal right here is huge for this Seattle offense. You know, for them to be able to come back and be down 3 points, you know, that's not too bad. But you know, they've been struggling a little bit here lately of finishing drives. and a touchdown would go a long way for this New York Giant team.
I beg your pardon there. Calling Eli, his brother Peyton. Eli to drop it. Boy, that's a dangerous throw. A lot of bodies in the middle of that pile. It's incomplete, 3rd and goal.
It's always a somewhat dangerous throw when you run that middle screen, and you see a lot of teams do it, but there's a lot of bodies in there in the middle, and for a quarterback, you know, you're trying to fit one in pretty quickly, and that was actually not as congested as what it sometimes can be. I mean, it's challenging, and then when you got a guy who pops one up in the air, yeah, that's going to make your heart stop if you're Tom Coughlin.
Eli this quarter is hit on 5 out of 8, 127 yards and a touchdown. 3rd down and goal. And Cruz is down at the 8. Out comes the field goal unit.
Yeah, so that's a good defensive stop right there for Seattle, and I think that it, you know, really comes about because of the false start on Jake Ballard, because otherwise I think that they have a whole different set of plays as to what they were going to do from the 8-yard line as opposed to the 13-yard line.
Should be noted the Giants' long snapper Zach Diassi had to leave the game earlier, so Jim Cordell, who they just signed this week, is in, and it's a high snap. But a nice catch and a good hold made by Weatherford on a 26-yard field goal try. You notice many of the players donned in pink today, joining the NFL's Crucial Catch campaign in the fight against breast cancer. Visit NFL.com/auction to bid now on authentic game-worn NFL pink products. All proceeds benefit the American Cancer Society.
We see a lot of these players out here wearing the pink, you know, because of the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's really great to see. I know it's impacted a lot of players, but even for those that it hasn't, you know, they've been awfully generous in their support.
Well, 4:49 left to go. The Giants 25, Seattle 22. Eli Manning made it his 16th fourth quarter or overtime come from behind win in the game at Arizona last week, and trying to make it 17 here today. It hasn't necessarily been a very pretty game. There have been all kinds of turnovers, big turnovers by Seattle. They jumped in front and had a chance to, if not deliver the knockout punch, made it extremely tough.
When you think about all of the different emotional swings in this game, you know, Seattle riding high, and they go down with their first possession of the game, score a touchdown. The Giants come right back and answer, and you know, and then Seattle's in the red zone, and the Giants are able to get the takeaways, and it's just gone back and forth, and both of these teams have shown a great deal of resiliency hanging in there.
And of course, they'll have to try and do it with Seattle without Tarvaris Jackson, and that's a good start. All the way up to the 43-yard line, a catch made by the rookie Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin, you know, he's a lot like Victor Cruz, and just that he's a young player who stepped in and has done a remarkable job. It's a nice play there on first down and a nice throw.
Dropped by McCoy.
You know, they're talking about Doug Baldwin, and Tarvaris Jackson was at home watching Monday Night Football one night, and he got a text message late. It was Doug Baldwin texting him about some of the things that he saw from this Giants defense, and that's the kind of study habits this young player has.
Give it to Leon Washington. He's up to the 45-yard line. We're down to closing in on 4 minutes. This is an extremely important third down for Seattle. And they're still in the hurry-up. looked like Baldwin got enough for the first down.
Yeah, that was Baldwin, though, not really knowing exactly where he was. They've got to give a measurement on this play. I'm not sure they're going to go ahead and signal first down. But if Baldwin had known right where he was, immediately you catch that ball and you get going north and south to make sure you pick up the first down.
Whitehurst down the field, and this time McCoy hangs on. And it's down to the Giant 28.
And you've got left tackle Russell Okun, who's a little banged up. He's having a hard time getting back to the line of scrimmage. Just they might want to talk about huddling, but they've got the Giants on the rope, so they don't want to do that. But he's hurting out there on the left tackle position.
Good play made by Antrell Roll.
That previous play, he was blocking Osayu Manura, and he went down, and he would have. Well, he's coming off the field now.
Tyler Columbus takes his place at tackle. Okung has had major problems with both ankles.
And they're still not slowing down on offense.
Pump fake wide open, a touchdown to Baldwin.
Osayu Manura, Tom, he came off sides, and they had a free play, and it looked like the secondary shut it down, thinking that they were going to throw the flag.
Offside defense, number 72.
Excuse me, thinking they were going to shut the play down.
Touchdown.
And the receivers kept playing, Whitehurst kept playing. It was easy touchdown.
And, you know, by the back picking up the block, that's probably what prevented exactly what you said might happen.
You know what? Actually, what happened? They faked that they were going to run the wide receiver screen, and both defensive backs jumped the receiver that was acting as though he was running the screen, and then they're able to get the throw in behind him. Saw about 4 different colleges run that exact same play yesterday.
So now the point after coming up for Hauschka. And he's got it to make it a 4-point spread.
You see what happens here. It's out here to your left. There's going to be, he's going to fake the throw. Here it is right here. You see Baldwin, the defensive backs, they jump the outside receiver thinking that it's going to be a quick throw to him. And Baldwin, being in the slot, he just goes right up the seam. No one goes with him, and then Whitehurst just able to lay it right out for him. I thought initially that the defensive backs had shut it down because of the flag being right there on their side. It was that official that threw the flag. I thought they had shut it down, Tom, but they didn't shut it down at all. They just got confused on who was covering who, and they turned Baldwin completely free.
So you give a lot of credit to the Seattle team. Now you're talking about the youngest offensive unit in the entire National Football League. Here they fall behind against the Giants. They're to their backup quarterback and Charlie Whitehurst. And they don't deviate from the game plan. Still in a hurry-up offense, right down the field to recapture the lead.
Yeah, that was an impressive drive.
Whitehurst went 4 of 5 for 77 of the 80 yards on that drive. So now Eli, we mentioned the last 2 Giants wins. They've come from behind to do it against Philly in week 3, in Arizona down 10 to win 31-27 last week. Eli in the 4th quarter last week hit on 14 out of 17, 180 yards. Bradshaw breaks a tackle. A first down to the 34.
So many times, Tom, that's what it takes. You know, a guy gets the ball out in the open field, and there's one guy he's got to beat. This time, Aaron Curry. He's unable to wrap him up, so what should have been just a couple of yard gain turns into a nice pickup.
Get the snap off before the 2-minute warning. Incomplete. And they still have time for one more play. Giants have all 3 timeouts left.
But you think about what a difference that safety now makes, you know. I mean, the way this whole thing is unfolded, the fact that the Giants here are in a position where they need a touchdown, a field goal not being enough, and then the stop that, of course, that Seattle made down there once the Giants had such a great possession on the previous drive, holding them out of the end zone and making them kick the field goal.
That's not a good sign for the Giants. Their 3-time Pro Bowl right guard Chris Snee heads to the sideline. Jim Portal moves into center, and that'll be Booth over at right guard. Good snap by Portal. What a catch, and guess who? There's who. Two-minute warning. 41-yard pass play. Giants will have it at the 24.
Today's game is sponsored by AT&T. Get it faster with
1-yard pass play to take us to 1:55 left here in East Rutherford. The Giants trailing 29-25. Seattle 1-3 on the year. The Giants trying to make it 4 straight wins, 3 straight coming from behind in the 4th quarter. Cruz to the 5.
Now you're going to see Eli Manning slow this thing down a little bit, but he does a nice job recognizing there's pressure to his backside, so he slides out to the right, and he's able to find Victor Cruz.
Giants 1st and goal at the 5, trailing 29-25. And flags come down. That'll be against the Giants.
False start offense, number 55. 5-yard penalty. It's 1st down.
It should be noted they continue to maneuver. Cordell, who was at center a moment ago, now he's at right guard, and Booth has gone back to center without Chris Snee, who left a moment ago injured.
Well, on the big play up the right sideline that got him down here to Victor Cruz, Jim Cordell did a great job picking up a twist up front that gave Eli Manning time to throw the ball. That time Manning wanted the ball snapped. It wasn't, and that's what caused the false start.
It's intercepted off the hands of Cruz. And racing the other way is Brandon Browner. No penalty flags, and the Seahawks are into the end zone. It was Cruz who caught a tip ball for a 68-yard touchdown at the beginning of this quarter. This one off the fingertips of Cruz into the air, and 94 yards the other way for Brandon Browner.
It looked like Victor Cruz slipped on his route, and so the ball was out in front of him. He's going to run an angle route. He slips there. The ball's thrown. It's out in front of him because of that. And he's reaching out with one arm, and that's what causes the ball then to go up. So he's unable to haul that in. Ball gets tipped up in the air with 3 defenders there. Browner there for the return.
Point after is good, and here we were less than 3 minutes ago, and the Giants had taken a lead, and now they're behind by 11. Off the fingertips of Cruz, off the fingertip of Chancellor, and look at the celebration off that Seahawks bench.
Well, Eli Manning has had himself a really nice day here today without any help to speak of from this running game. And even on that play, it goes down as an interception on Eli Manning, but you know, that's a ball that you've got to be willing to turn loose down there in the red zone. But it was because of the slip by Victor Cruz that then made the ball seem like it was out in front of him more than what it otherwise would have been, And the one arm looked like initially he might be able to haul that in. You see him, he's kind of got it, but he gets hit, ball's tipped up. Browner returns it. And for Seattle, you see Pete Carroll, you know, he talked about it this week that, you know, when you're trying to build a program and build confidence with a team that has been struggling like they did last year, even though, as you said, they won the division, won a playoff game, but off to a tough start here in 2011. This is it's a big game here in New York, traveling east against a good football team and coming out here with a win.
Thomas going to bring it out. And he stopped at the 13-yard line. You're talking about a guy in Cruz who in the fourth quarter made 6 catches alone. Now, those are the numbers overall. 6 of the 8. And all but 15 of the yards have come here in the fourth quarter.
Well, and even the last play, I mean, that's just one of, hey, that's one of those things that happens, you know. I mean, you can't even fault him. You know, the fumble, okay, but on that last play, he slips. You know, it happens. These field turf surfaces, we see them around the league, guys slipping from time to time. He slips, trying to make a play, and there wasn't anything that he could really do about it. Just one of those bad breaks that happens from time to time for some teams.
DJ Ware up to the 38.
But you know, Tom, I think if you look at this whole game and how it was played and some of the breaks that occurred and how the Giants were able to stay in it, this game should have been a 20-point deficit for the Giants at halftime, yet because of the takeaways defensively they hung in there. It's hard to argue with this. I think Tom Coughlin would probably be the first one to tell you that, you know, if we had been able to win this game, or, you know, who knows, they still might. They got to pick up a lot of yardage here and then get an onside kick. But the Giants didn't play well overall, play well enough to win this ball game.
Well, a career high 412 yards, first 400-yard passing game of the career of Eli Manning. Manningham tackled in the open field by Thurman. Had 7 turnovers in the game today, 3 of them inside the red zone. Seattle had the 2 in that first half, preventing them from having that 20-point lead.
I'm surprised they're preserving all these timeouts, and they're wasting a lot of time. They've got 3 timeouts, and yet they let the clock roll. And granted, it's a 2-possession game. You got to score, you got to get an onside kick. But if you run out of time, it doesn't matter. So why they're not using some of the timeouts when the clock's running, I don't think that's very smart.
Well, you bounce around town like we have the last couple of days, and you run into so many Giant fans, and they'll look you in the eye and say, this is the kind of game that, you know, scares you from the very beginning. Tom Coughlin said the same thing when we talked with him. Giants have not been especially a dominant team at home. That one's intercepted. Cam Chancellor will officially put this one to bed. So the 3-game winning streak for the Giants will come to an end, and a 3-year losing streak, nearly 4-year losing streak in the Eastern time zone will come to an end for the Seattle Seahawks.
I don't know where Eli was throwing that ball.
There's Pete Carroll. Spent a season as head coach of the New York Jets. 3 years in New England, and went back to the college game where he cut a couple of national championships at USC. This is one of his bigger wins in his short tenure as head coach for the Seahawks.
Well, he's done a nice job. You know, as bad as that division was last year, for him to be able to win it, even though they were 7-9, more importantly, win a home playoff game against a good New Orleans team last year. Nobody gave him a chance of winning that game. And to come here at 1-3 and find a way to win this game against the Giants, who have been rolling, that's a big win.
We'll be back with more.